go and how we're going to do it. But we'll play the quotes here first, just so you can feel how Brother Branham felt about this area.
And I can hear the F on the way over here, the main answer. Next week after next, I'll be hunting on the Lord willing. So then, hearing that over there, oh, it's just so godly to be up there. Oh, that's my cathedral up there where I talk to you, and I come down here and talk to you. See? And up in there, oh, it's so wonderful, it's relaxing. To stand there and go, oh God, look, and the rain come out, the evergreens just cross over, the rainbow swept across that from Crown Peak, come over to Sheep Mountain, over that way across that. Oh, get there. I thought, there you are. What ain't Omega, the beginning and the end? Here it comes down, here, there. You're the same yesterday, today, and forever. The 7 church ages, the 7 golden candlesticks. Oh, wonderful you are. I was just shouting, I set my gun on the tree, Lord. Praise God, praise the Lord. Round. I was a big time up there by myself, just, you know.
And then you could switch over to the buckboard story. So he was talking about Corral Peaks, and that we'll have 2 trails that we're going to go. One's an easier hike, so for the ladies and younger children, they'll probably want to go down to Monument Creek, and where he talks about the blood tag, and we'll play that Vote For You When We're There. I think it'll have a lot of meaning to you. There's a more difficult hike that maybe some of the younger guys or people that are willing, really put some effort into it, can go up on what we call the ridge. We can't get on Corral Peaks because we don't have the access due to the fire anymore, but you can see the valley. And in that quote, he was talking about Corral Peaks and how the rainbow went from Corral Peaks over to Sheep Mountain, and you can see all those locations. And we can also point out some places where he camped, where he spoke the storm out of existence, things like that. Once we go. So this is the story of the buckboard, and I'm sure many of you know the story. There was a runaway carriage with a baby, and he talks about it being in the Colorado Mountains. It's actually in this area. Story was told of actually this area in Colorado. So now when you hear the tapes, you can start to identify yourself with those stories. Yeah, I've seen that same country.
Yep.
So from here, Dad, maybe you want to take the lead on.
You guys play that first.
Yeah, we did.
It's cathedral. So the whole goal today is to show you a part of the cathedral. Why Brother Branham loved to come here, loved to relax. And you're just going to have a great, relaxing day and a good time of fellowship.
So, and then from here, we're all going to leave together in our cars. I don't know if...
I was just counting, because one of the things we need to deal with is how many vehicles we have, where we're going. So we're going to go out of town here and go down a road, and we're going to stop at a little cabin. I don't know, did we buy a quote? But I don't know if we have a quote on the cabin. It might be nice if we could find one. Brother Branham used to, when he was a cowboy, and he talked about huddling up with another cowboy because it was so cold, and he would stay in a cabin when he was a cowboy back in the early days when he was young and he was doing the roundups, and they would stay in this cabin. Well, as God would have it, a billionaire bought 22,000 acres of these ranches, all of them, a bunch of them. The guy bought them, put them all into one ranch. Well, he moved the cabins that were down there by the Troublesome. He moved them right up by the road and remodeled them. And so a lot of what we learned was from Brother Earl Martin. He was my pastor when I was a young man, and he spent a lot of time with Brother Branham and came up here. So a lot of this we've learned. So they moved that cabin up by the road, and we can't go on the private property, but we can stop right there, and you can take some pictures. If you like, give Brother Emmanuel your number. I've got a beautiful picture. Brother David Andes took a picture, and the sun was perfect. So we actually framed a picture of it and have it on the mantle of our fireplace. So we could send you that picture, and you can take your own, because depending on the time of day, how good the picture turns out can be different. But we'll just stop there for a minute, and then we're going to play a couple of clips right there, because you'll be driving up the Troublesome River Valley. So we'll stop there. So it might be a good idea to take break us into like 3 groups of cars, just so we're not overwhelming this little area or freaking out the rancher that owns the property there. So that's kind of why we wanted to all get together, is maybe break up into 3 groups of vehicles. We'll stop there, and then there's another stop where we get right up on top of this winding road, where you can look out over the whole valley, and you can see where the East Troublesome, that Brother Branham talks about, the West Troublesome comes together and to make the Troublesome River. And there's a map there, so you can see, you can take pictures of the map. It'll just really give you a real beautiful view of what Brother Branham loved, and when you're hearing these stories, you'll know what he was seeing. You'll have visuals for what Brother Branham was seeing and why this was his cathedral. So we'll have another stop there, and there's only room on that turn probably to have maybe 6 to 8 cars at a time probably. And then from there we'll go up to a private gate. So we'll need to make sure that one of the boys is in a vehicle with the gate code, because we can't give it to everyone. And so we'll get through the gates, and then we'll go up to Brother Dan Myers. He owns a piece of ground that's on that private property that backs up to the National Forest. And it's a good sized property. So we'll have to kind of figure out how to get everybody to park in there. And then from there we'll take little groups. How many young men would like to do the more adventurous? Girls, I'm sorry, it doesn't have to only be. Raise your hand if you want to do the adventurous hike. Raise your hands high. Let's kind of get a count. Because that'll. Raise your hands high. Let's get a count. Keep your hand up, please.
Very high, very high.
Very high. Very high.
This is one of
Okay, let's do this. So put your hands down. If you'd like to do the Hereford Gate is where the other hike is. It's not as strenuous. Who would like to do the Hereford Gate? The little. Maybe I shouldn't have said the more strenuous, because then everybody wants to do that one. It's that competitive spirit you guys have that burns out your heart. So who would like to do the hike to the Hereford Gate? Let's see your hand, because that'll be the other side.
Where Brother Branham was.
This is where Brother Branham was sitting on his horse.
Okay, listen up.
So the other hike is a little less strenuous. It's a good hike. It's about 45 minutes in, 45 minutes back, but we actually get to go right down to the water on the creek. Where they're going is going to be up on a ridge way high, where you can see the whole valley of the East Troublesome. And they'll have some quotes, which we'll play some of the same one. The hike we're going to do is going to be right along Monument Creek that Brother Branham talks about, where the Monument Creek, we're going to take you right where it runs into the East Troublesome. And Brother Branham doesn't talk about fishing a lot, but as much as we love to fish, you guys fish there a lot. So that's where we're going to go, and we're going to show you the spot where Brother Branham was on the horse and be on the cord where the cows would come through and they're checking the blood tags. So we're going to go right to that spot. So that's going to be the other hike. So how many would like to do that hike? Let me see your hands. Raise your hands high.
Behind you.
There is one other option. Yeah, you won't be able to, we won't have time to do both. And if you do the other one, you probably would be very tired. I mean, you probably wouldn't want to do both. These guys do it. I don't do both in the same day. The other option is that Janice is volunteered to just hang out at the camp. We've got a few chairs. It's beautiful there. You can just hang out and relax. For the more strenuous hike, you probably should allow an hour and a half up. Hour and a half up, maybe an hour there, and an hour back. So at least probably around 3 to 3.5 hours. For the other hike, we usually allow 3, just depending on how much fun we are having, hanging out down around the Troublesome Creek. So it looks like we can probably fit everybody on the Monument Creek hike into one group. And the rest of you will be right at the campground. You'll leave from there. So we can all just park from right there. And when you get back from the hike, Brother Manuel was so good to bring some coolers. So we'll have some water on ice and a few snacks, just something to restore your energy. And we can hang out there as long as listen up. We can hang out there at the campground as long as you guys want. And then for those of you that would like, when we head back down, we're going to call Bojo's Pizza. They have, let's see if I can find a picture of the pizza, but they're very large pizzas, the best pizza you ever had, probably. And it's our family's honor to buy pizza for everyone. We'll want to have an idea of how many people are going to stop for the pizza. So we'll just have some snacks when we get back from the hike, just something quick to restore our energy, some water. We can hang out. There's lots and lots of quotes. We can play as many as you want. We've sent some of the brothers the quotes where they're located. And so if you will get with them or us, we can, especially if you're on WhatsApp, we can send you the quotes so you can save them for later and go listen to them. One of the quotes the words I looked, Brother Branham talks about Mr. Jeffrey, and it's J-R-E. That's how we recognize how many times Brother Branham is talking about Kremling when most people don't know it. Because Mr. Jeffries, like one of the stories we have is where he met Mr. Jeffries. And it's a beautiful story. So while we're sitting around the campground up there, we can listen to some of those. But that's one of you can search it in your table WhatsApp, and you'll get lots of really good quotes about Brother Branham in this area. It helps you get an overall view of how many stories Brother Branham told that came from here. We all love Sunset. It's a special place. But this was a special place to Brother Branham on a very personal level. He spent 20 years, summer and fall, on the roundups. He spent 20 years in a row, he said. He was up here on October 23rd for his anniversary. And he would call his wife, we believe it was from the little phone booth that used to be by the Moose restaurant. And so he would be calling Sister Mead and telling her, wishing her happy anniversary from right here in this little town there by the Moose restaurant. So, again, and so for you that don't know, the beautiful part for me personally is I was born near Jeffersonville, Indiana, and God brought me all the way from Jeffersonville to this little tiny town. And if you will see that little tree over there, that's where God introduced my bride to me. I met her here in this little tiny town. That's where we met. So God brought me all the way from Jeffersonville. He brought Brother Branham. Brother Branham came all the way from Jeffersonville to here.